Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about a primary text we read about last week that really stuck with me. It is Captain John Smith's initial encounter with Jamestown, and in particular, the part where he was captured by the Native Americans and supposedly saved by Pocahontas. We'll get to that part. What kind of drew me to this text is a question that I'll answer in further detail later. However, this excerpt kind of reads more like a survival story or like a really intense narrative throughout the whole excerpt. You can just feel the tension as he is being captured and being tortured and whatnot. So what initially drew me to this text was I was actually watching Pocahontas on TV with my nieces while I was reading it and doing schoolwork, and it kind of just, I guess, stuck out to me that Pocahontas' name was brought up. And throughout reading it, it almost felt like a movie. And in this certain excerpt, I just kept on asking myself, like, is this real? Like, how dramatized is this from his perspective? Is he trying to make himself look like he's higher than the Native Americans, like this big bad guy throughout the West? Yeah, it kind of just seemed like a movie with all the ceremonies or rituals that he talked about in his narrative. And that's what kind of drew me to this text after all. So, what's unique about this text is how John Smith, as I've stated previously, portrays himself throughout the whole narrative as like this big bad guy, kind of making himself to look like a hero and making him look like he's outsmarting the Native Americans, like talking down about them. However, he talks about how he is amazed by their rituals and like how they go about life and how organized they actually are, because the colonists, in my opinion, thought that the Native Americans were these uncivilized, untamed humans that just ravaged through the earth. But in reality, they have a set of rules. They have a leader named Powhatan. They have kind of like a government system, and they live off the land in an organized fashion. As I said, he says that he's amazed by their rituals, yet he still calls them barbarians, which is kind of just like a contradiction in his verbiage. So the particular scene that is meaningful to me is whenever Smith gives, I'm going to butcher this name, Ochekano, the compass, and all of the Native Americans kind of gather around it and says that they're trying to feel the needle inside. However, they can't because there's glass obviously on it. And then John Smith kind of just starts telling them about like the skies and the earth and all of these like technological and scientific advancements that the Europeans have made, now colonists. It's just kind of meaningful to me to see that great disconnect between the Native Americans that are just pillaging and living off the land and living off game and corn and whatnot. But then John Smith is telling them about all of these new things, new intricacies to life that they never knew about. So the passage I picked kind of piggybacks off of my last statement. It reads, "But when he demonstrated by that globe-like jewel the roundness of the earth and skies, the sphere of the sun, moon, and stars, they all stood as amazed with admiration." I picked this excerpt kind of because it's just so layered in so many ways. Some people might think that John Smith is trying to actually educate the Native Americans on these newly scientific advancements that the Europeans and now colonizers have made. However, I don't think that at all. I think that this is a manipulation tactic by John Smith to try to make himself feel superior to them and make them think that he is some kind of god or some kind of higher up in the world than them. In my opinion, this text is still relevant today because going through school or watching TV, this Pocahontas story is told or mentioned so many different times. However, it is now romanticized, and to see it in its raw, natural text kind of just makes us question whether or not, like, how relevant and how real some of these stories are that we're being told. Captain John Smith's account is more than just a survival story to me. It kind of gives us insight into how he thought that the Native Americans were. I mean, we can see this through Rawlinson's accounts whenever she was captured, through Christopher Columbus's primary text as well. You can just see how they thought that they were just so much more superior than the Native Americans. And with manipulation tactics, they could use this superiority or this big boat out chest to gain food, to gain tools to gain weapons to gain whatever they need. They can use this manipulation and get what exactly they need. That is going to be it for this video. Let me know what you think about this story, or if you want to know anything else about it. I think that this is a great story and gives us great insight into how the colonists thought of themselves versus the Native Americans.